here and wait. Oh, for God's sakes, of course, trust me to drop the phone and more messages. Lovely. Sorry, if I get a lot of Snapchat messages, got a couple of people that aren't leaving me alone at the minute, you know what I mean? Sorry about the phone falling over constantly. Jesus, doesn't want to stand up today. It's just because I keep trying to adjust it properly, because it can't see me properly, it's too low down. Like, so yeah, just gonna wait until a couple more viewers come into stream. Lovely. Ow. My chest. Yeah, I've done some makeup to turn around and try and make myself look a bit more masculine, because I'm feeling a bit more masc-presenting today. And you know what? I do want your guys' opinion on it, because I don't know. I can't tell. And I hope you guys can hear the music okay. We will get into the reading shortly. Just gonna wait for some people to show up for this lovely story time. Got some nice beats on in the background. Obviously, if I had everything set up properly, this would be like the just starting screen here, and but don't have that, so you can enjoy my ugly mug for a bit. No. Normally you've got to leave chat running for probably about 20 minutes before viewers actually start showing up. Normally, streamers have what they have on there when they set up.
Someone jumps in until you start reading the book.
Yeah. But normally they have like a just starting screen that they leave on for about 20 minutes or so. Before they start. Hello. Hello, person. see. Okay, Koki, we will start the reading in probably about. Start it in a little bit. Starting the reading in a minute. Just gonna have a ciggy first.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, pretty decent. So if I'm right, we were up to
Then you get to chapter 4 or 5.
Well, yeah, we got up to chapter 1, part 5, so technically chapter 2. It's like...
Read chapter 1, part 5 again, so everyone can catch up.
Yeah, so everyone can catch up.
Just last chapter.
This book is falling apart. Jeez.
Alright.
Proper falling apart.
Tell them that's for ideas, which books, what people want to read.
I know I've got a book suggestion thing in the Discord.
Yeah, I'll have a look online and see how much they are, or if you can try and find a cheap copy of it.
Yeah. Well, once I've published them on my YouTube, you know what? Once I've published it on my YouTube, I'm gonna go through and get all the videos when I get a PC and edit it and turn it into an actual audiobook series and release it onto Spotify.
As well.
Yeah, I've just got to go through and edit them properly. Does that sound like fun, guys? Doing a book series, and you guys get to see it exclusively on Twitch live. People on YouTube can rewatch the whole stream if they want, but those suckers that are gonna have to wait for Spotify, yeah, they miss out on all the fun. Find the start of this part, shall we? There we go. Right, should we get into the book then? Baby? Starting the reading now.
Okay.
An omen. Linnell was on her way to meet a unicorn, and her life was finally going to change. She was so excited that she practically skipped as she followed Sander on the meandering forest path. He walked quickly, but Linnell kept up without difficulty, firing questions at him as they went. Will the unicorn mind me turning up uninvited? You are invited. I have invited you. That will be enough. Does he talk? In his own way. What will he ask me? Linnell's questions was interrupted by a harsh, screeching sound, loud enough to make her jump back. What was that? Just a bird, said Sander, pointing into a tree above them. A large black bird with a flash of white at its throat perched on one of the lower branches, shifting its weight from foot to foot. A raven, said Linnell. I've never seen a raven in these woods before. Don't people say they are bad luck? Sander laughed loudly. Those rural superstitions are just stories that people tell one another to stop themselves from doing anything fun. They are nonsense. Linnell felt foolish. Sander had already thought that she was a quotacious type from a I can't read that. flip, from 100 Hamlet. Now he would think she believed in local superstitions too. The bird watched them for a few moments and then divided from the tree in front of Sandra's face, flipping its wings and making the same screeching sound as before. Linnell shrieked at Sandra's Linnell shrieked and Sander battered his arms around his head. His hat fell to the forest floor. The bird flew up to the trees for a few seconds and then divided again, aiming straight for Sander. "Be gone, bird!" yelled Sander, continuing to hit at it. Then he removed his pipe from a holder and blew into it, making a screeching sound at a volume far louder than the bird. Linnell put her hands over her ears. The bird flapped away into another tree further away. Sander waited and then blew again. The bird flew away. Sander stopped the awful noise, picked up his hat, and patted it back into shape. Linnell lowered her hands. She heard the bird calling in the distance. It was too far off to tell, but Linnell's ears, it sounded like, "Go back, go back." Could you get us a drink, please? Thanks. Hydrate. They can't anymore. You need to be affiliate to have those perks. Yeah. That's why we were so upset at losing affiliate. It wasn't the money, it was the fact that we didn't have those viewer interactions anymore. Chapter 2, Part 2. Up and Up. Linnell followed Sander further into the forest and out the other side. They reached a stream. He led her to its narrow point, jumped across, and reached a hand out to help her. They progressed in the direction of the mountains. She didn't skip along quite like she had before, but still she walked swiftly, thinking of the unicorn and how her life would change. "Is it far? Which way are we heading?" asked Linnell. She never normally walked this distance from home, and she found herself looking back in the direction of her cottage, calculating how long it would take her to return. "Questions again! Always so many questions," said Sander. "Just relax and enjoy the sights and sounds of the journey. There is so much to see everywhere. Why don't you look over at those mountains in the distance? Tell me what you see." Linnell looked where Sander was pointing in the distance. A waterfall flowed down the side of one of the mountains, the smallest sentry. She could not see where it began or ended, only the streak of white, which must be the cascade of churning water, and the fainter line it drew through the trees. "It's many miles from here, of course, but it is said that the great treasures lie in a cave behind the falls, sapphires the size of my palm." Sander held up his hand to illustrate his point. Linnell stopped walking for a moment. How had she never heard of this tale before? Without Sander, she would know nothing about the magic and hidden riches that lay so close to her doorstep. "Why does nobody claim the treasure? Why don't you?" The sound of the waterfall is thunderous, like an avalanche or a stampede of cattle. It is so loud that nobody can get within a few miles of the waterfall for fear of losing their hearing, explained Sander. "It's not the cascade of water alone that makes the sound, of course. The waterfall is enchanted with a sorcerer's curse. When he trapped the treasure, he also trapped spectres that screamed and shouted to be free, to claim the treasures. One would have to get close enough to the waterfall, undo the spectre's spell. It would be impossible. Sander smiled knowingly. Nothing is impossible. If we were to embark upon that particular quest, I should lull the spectres into a slumber with my pipe playing. It would be relatively simple, but I have no particular need for material wealth. Besides, other adventures beckon. I prefer to gaze at this particular waterfall from afar. It's a treasure in its own right. Linnell looked and sighed wistfully. Sander was right. It was beautiful. All this magic right on her doorstep that she had never noticed before. She was on the biggest adventure of her life. Sander played a tune on his pipe. Linnell listened with her eyes closed. The music certainly was magical enough to undo a curse. Sander stopped and Linnell opened her eyes. He looked kindly at her. I don't mean to be cruel about the questions. It's natural to wonder, but sometimes it can ruin the experience. Try to relax. Enjoy each step we take. Linnell nodded, trying to ignore the blisters that were forming on her heels. Sometimes, the answers to these questions anyway, without you know the answers to these questions anyway, without having to ask me. You ask which way. Uh, you ask which way we are seeking a unicorn in a castle in the clouds. So you tell me which way will we travel to find this unicorn. Linnell thought for a moment. I suppose up. Up, exactly. And up they went. They walked up a wide, dusty path that grew steeper as they went along. Linnell could see the white clouds not far above them, but no castle. She had lived in these mountains her whole life, and had never, not even on the clearest of days, seen a castle above the peaks. She wondered how far they would have to walk before they saw it. After a while, they reached a wall of rough grey rocks. The foothills were behind them now. This was proper mountain, proper. This was proper Montania territory. The path looked a sharp, steep turn to the left, zigzagging up the mountain. It was made up of small stones, bigger than pebbles but smaller than rocks. Linnell wondered if they had been laid by hand or formed naturally. She was tempted to ask Sander, but was trying hard to limit her questions. Sander broke two long branches from a nearby tree and handed one to Linnell. Then he embarked on the steep path. Using the branch as a walking stick, Linnell followed his strides, keeping up reasonably easy. Her legs were strong, and she was accustomed to walking up and down slopes. Some might think that her daily walk between the cow barn and her home was more of a climb than a stroll. The higher they climbed, the more out of breath she grew, but she tried to speak normally. She would show Sander that she was capable of this adventure. My father says that only an adventurer or a fool would up, climb this far up Montania. Sander laughed at her comment and did not reply. Which was she wondered, an adventurer or a fool? She wished she could be sure. As they climbed higher, the path grew narrower until there was no path at all. A small rock fell from somewhere up above, tumbling and bouncing down the near vertical slopes to her right. If she fell now, would she be able to halt her fall with a handhold, or would she keep sliding and bounce down the mountainside as the rock had done? Sander turned to Linnell. A tumbling rock can sound distant, but you should never turn your face in its direction. If you hear a rock fall, then you cover your head with your hands and make yourself small. Linnell lifted her chin. I have lived my whole life on the foothills of a mountain. I don't need advice on what to do in an avalanche. She wished she felt confident as confident as she tried to appear. Sander laughed in response. Higher, higher they climbed, and as the sun moved westward, Linnell tried not to think about her cozy home and how worried her father would be getting. They had reached the clouds that she had been staring up at earlier. It was strange. It was a strange thought. They swirled thick and white around her, a bit like fog, but active and unpredictable. At least they blocked the dizzying drop from her sight. She felt wobbly, lightheaded, but wasn't sure if it was fear or the change in the air as they had travelled higher. Maybe it was even higher. She hadn't eaten since breakfast. Maybe it was even hunger. She hadn't eaten since breakfast, although she didn't feel as though she wanted food. It was hard work, and her feet didn't want to move as they had before. She gripped the slender trunk of a tree on her left and moved into it, the bark rough against the inside of her elbow and her cheek. She took a couple of deep breaths in through her nose, but this deep breathing didn't settle her the way it usually did. She felt as though the thick mist might suffocate her. Just keep going, said Sander, one foot in front of the other. Linnell took his advice. She tried not to look down the mountainside again and just focused on her feet, taking tiny steps and moving slowly forwards. Finally, they rested. Sander sat on a rock a few paces further up. He gazed down at her without speaking, reached into his bag and handed her an apple. She bit into it gratefully, enjoying the sweetness. She ate the whole thing and dropped the core, this time. As she watched it fall and bounce, she didn't feel scared, just interested. She wondered where it would land, and if an apple tree would grow. Wouldn't that be a strange sight here amongst the pine trees? The apple gave her a little more energy. That's better, she said, and smiled with enthusiasm she didn't feel. They must be nearly there. Linnell wanted to ask how far and exactly how they would reach the castle, but she was still trying to not ask too many questions. It didn't stop them whirling around her head. She would have to train herself out of it. They set off again. Now even the narrow stony path had disappeared, and they had to forage their own path across the rocks and through the spindly trees. Sander managed it easily, skipping along lightly. Linnell, despite being fit and used to the mountains, found it a struggle. The uneven rocky surface pressed through the thin leather soles of her shoes, and in time the slope grew so steep that Linnell abandoned the walking stick and used her hands as well as her feet to scramble up the mountainside. A memory came to her. When she had been 5 or 6, a local goat herd, a friend of her father's, had fallen down the grey mountain. He had survived the fall but died soon afterwards of his injuries. She peered over her shoulder. If she fell up here, then she would roll quickly downhill. If she were lucky, then a bush or a tree would break her fall and save her. If not, then it would be the end of her. What would her father say when they found her body broken at the bottom of the mountainside? She stopped breathing rapidly. She stopped breathing. She stopped. Sorry, guys. Hello, Derpy. Hey, I'm here again, not for long, but I am here. I'm going to bed. Enjoy your stream. Good night. thank you for popping by. Sorry, I completely missed that. I hope you enjoyed it. The reading, I don't even know how long I've been reading for. Could you sort the music out, please? But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to it. She stopped, breathing rapidly, unsure if she could go on. Sander must have sensed her fear and took a long rope from his bag. He looped one end through his leather belt and tied the other around her waist with a figure of 8 knot. This knot won't tighten if you fall, he said. I'll go a little way ahead and you follow. Linnell nodded. She felt safer with this rope around her, but still she wasn't sure if she could physically move any higher. She watched Sander travel up the steep slope, his hands and feet naturally seeking out the holds within the rough surfaces of the rock. He made it look so easy. Sander perched on a rocky protrusion above her, the rope snaking between them. You can do this, Linnell, he said, and he took his pipe from his belt. He played an uplifting tune that made her think of birds and clouds and unicorns. Her eyes were drawn skyward, and she felt a pressing urge to go up, to join Sander on the rocky ledge. She placed her hands and feet exactly where he had done and climbed. She no longer thought about the falling, she just thought of her destinations, and it was easy. They continued on like that without speaking, Sander climbing ahead, playing his pipe, and then Linnell following him and his music. She managed the journey all the way to a wider ledge where Sander untied the rope that joined them. We've reached the summit, he announced. But in the thick cloud and fading light, she couldn't see the peak or the view below. She could only just make out his features. Linnell felt as though she was just waking up from a dream. She forgot about limiting her questions. Are we there? Where is the castle? Sander nodded. We have reached the top of Montania, but the castle lies above Mount Opacus. To the west, he pointed out into the clouds, into the nothingness. We cannot get there by foot. Linnell felt hot tears blind her eyes. She didn't understand how they could possibly travel to another mountain peak. Sander took a couple of paces and disappeared into the mist. Panicking, Linnell followed him. Just a few more steps up on the side and we'll get you across, he said. She saw then they were near a wooden structure. 8 or 9 steps led up to an open platform at the lakeside jettiers that the fishermen used in I can't read that word. What's that word say? Arvale. Must be a name of a place then. Linnell had no idea what it was for, although she was fairly certain that nobody would be fishing all the way up here. She followed Sander up the steps and stood as close to the middle of the platform as she could, away from the open edge. To her left, a metal wheel was fixed to a tall wooden post, which a thick rope wound around it. Some kind of pulley system. Sander reached up to the rope by the wheel and pulled at it. The wheel squeaked and turned, and a deep, square, woven basket swung into view. The sort that held firewood, but deeper, almost up to her shoulders. He pulled it up so that it was resting on the platform edge. Here's how you get across. Okie dokie. we're going to take a quick pause here. So I can have a smoke and a drink. And we will get into, I think it's chapter 2, part 3 or part 4. What time is it? So what's everyone thinking of the book so far? I do hope you like it. It seems to be a very interesting book. I've read up to a certain point so far. We're going to get through this book, and I'm willing to try any other books. To a certain level, I'm not reading smut or anything like that on here.
So no 50 Shades of Grey then?
Nah, no 50 Shades of Grey or anything. I'd even say Game of Thrones is a bit of a push, you know what I mean?
Game of Thrones is awesome, just don't go into the sex. All you have to do is go to Game of Thrones and go, sexy time happens and that's it.
So obviously, no, like, yeah, I don't mind it getting it a little bit saucy from time to time, but I don't want to be reading that sort of stuff on this channel. Thank you very much. We're very much going for a cutesy, cozy, warm, fun vibe, you know, rather than that type of vibe. And if it gets to that point where you're asking for that sort of stuff, I will think about setting up an OnlyFans just to read things like that. That is a possibility. I've been asked that by people on TikTok already, so I'll think about it. Or maybe a Patreon. Patreon's better. That's more. Yeah. I've been completely stumbling up so bad on these words at the minute. I am so sorry. You are going to have to bear with me. We've got dyslexia, see, and it's kind of really difficult to read sometimes. But it's something that we really enjoy, and it's something that was requested quite a lot when we were on our old channel, you know what I mean? So give it a go. If you don't like it, then you don't have to watch. Again, I just want to thank you guys for all your support, you know what I mean? Even moving to this new channel, you regulars and consistent viewers, you've still come back, you've still, you know, popped in and said hi and everything like that. And you know what, it is really great to be seeing some old faces again. I've seen quite a few of you popped up in the little moderator thingy, and just sat and chilled as well, without saying anything in chat, which is really sweet for you to just pop in and say, you know, just to have a watch. And I did see that, so thank you so much. If you are still here, honestly, it does mean the world to be able to get back into all of this and start doing this all again, and to still have all the support from you guys. You know what I mean? It's amazing. I think it's only currently Yeet who's viewing the video at the minute.
That's okay.
I think that's the only one that's I think so anyway. I checked on my tablet beforehand, like, so. Stream manager. We don't have Mr. Pebbles here at the minute, though. I am very sorry about that. Not Mr. Fruity Pebbles, was it? Yeah, Fruity Pebbles. We don't have Fruity Pebbles here at the minute. He's escapee. Escapee.
Is that becoming a thing now?
I think. Escapee. It must be. We've been doing that a lot, to be fair. Yeah. Escapee. We will be getting back to our content that we did promise you, the gaming content, eventually. I mean, if you guys are up for silent streams, I could turn around and do some silent game streams, but I don't know, I don't really enjoy that as much. Can you pass us that drink, please? Right, let's get back to the book, shall we? The other side. Sandra unclipped the side of the basket, which swung open like a door, and she saw that he meant for her to get inside. Linnell peered at the pulley rope, which stretched out into the clouds. She couldn't see how far it went, or to where. Would it take her weight? Her heart beat faster, faster. Climbing up mountains was one thing, but baskets pulled on ropes were quite another. I can't do this, she said. It's the only way. Trust me. I will get you across to the other side, encouraged Sandra. Are you not coming too? It isn't big enough for two. Linnell saw this was true, but her whole body protested at the idea of getting inside. I've got the basket, said Sandra. You just need to take one step inside. The whole journey will be over in mere minutes. Just one step. After the journey they had undertaken, Linnell could surely manage one more step. She leaned forward and he held onto the upper edges of the basket. Then, as Sandra held the basket firmly on the platform, she stepped inside. It didn't move, it was secure. Then Sandra clipped the side firmly shut with one hand. She gripped onto the edges tightly as he let go, and begun pulling at the rope. Don't look down, he said. She squeezed her eyes shut. The basket shifted towards the edge. Hold on tight, called Sandra, and the basket fell a few inches off the platform, jolting her alarmingly. Linnell shrieked. She opened her eyes. It was better with them open. The basket swayed and swung in the thick white mist, Sandra disappearing from view. Linnell could only just make out his ghost-like figure pulling at the pulley rope. She had no idea how far up she was, or if she was crossing air or water. Despite the depth of the basket, she had the unnerving feeling that she might topple over the edge, so she crouched down inside, reaching up to grip the edges. The base of the basket creaked and squeezed beneath her. She felt sick. She wanted to sing to herself, to pray, to do anything to make herself feel better, but she couldn't even breathe. All that lay between her and a neck-breaking fall was the simple pulley mechanism. What if the rope broke? What if it jammed and she was left suspended halfway across? But she told herself over and over she could do it. It was all going to be worth it, and the journey was quick. The second mountain must have been close by, because after just a couple of minutes, the swaying stopped as the basket hit something solid, and Linnell felt the base dragging on flat ground. The mist was still thick, but she could see that she had reached the other mountain, which was another sudden jolt to the basket tipped, emptied Linnell onto the hard ground. She lay there on her side for a moment, palms down on the flat, cool rock, grateful to be in one piece. Then she sat up. The basket had deposited her on a small level section of the mountainside. The thick white clouds still swirled around her, the feeling of sitting on a cloud in the sky. She looked up, but still couldn't see a castle. I made it, Sander. I'm on the other side. Her voice sounded strange as she spoke into the thick cloud, as if she was the only one in the world. Her heart stopping a moment, she imagined that he might not reply. What if she was left here alone? But Sander did reply. She couldn't see his face, but his voice was clear. She couldn't have travelled far from him. Send the basket back, he called. Linnell stood slowly and carefully and straightened the basket so that it was upright on the rocky ground. To her right was a wooden post with a pulley system attached, just as there had been on the other side. She reached out and pulled the upper rope towards her. The rope moved easily, and the empty basket moved back in the direction from which she'd come, lurching off the mountainside. It's coming, she cried, but this time there was no response. Very soon the basket was lost in the mist. She kept pulling on the rope until she could suddenly no longer pull. It must have reached the other side. Have you got it? She cried. Yes, floated back an answer, much to her relief. There was a long pause, during which Linnell guessed Sander must be climbing into the basket. She hoped she'd have the strength to pull him across. Are you ready? She called after a while. There was a long pause, and Sander's voice. Linnell, listen to me carefully. You have to keep going on your own now. Follow the steps up. Even at this distance, his voice sounded wobbly. Was Linnell imagining it, or did he seem as scared as she was? Sander, aren't you coming too? You won't be able to pull the basket with me in it. He was leaving her here. Let me try, or take me back again. Don't let me go on alone, please. Linnell didn't want to go anywhere, especially not further up. She wanted to go home. She pulled on the lower rope to bring the basket back to her. She would pull herself back across if necessary, but it was fixed in place. Then she pulled on the other rope. That wouldn't budge either. The realization washed over her. She had sent the basket back to Sander, and only he could free it. She was stuck here, and she had to do what he said. You can't turn back now, he called. I must leave you to complete the last part of the journey on your own. I'm sorry, Linnell. He did sound as though he was really sorry. But for leaving her, or for something else, she couldn't tell. What? What? She particularly screamed the words across the gulf. You're abandoning me? His voice drifted over again. Just listen to me. Keep going up. Find the steps. Linnell began to feel desperate. She looked frantically around for some steps, but there was nothing. I can't! I will play my pipe so that you will know I am still here. Trust me. Trust him? She hated him, and she hated herself. Why had she left the woods with him? He was a stranger, after all. However charming and carefree, right now she should be sitting at the kitchen table with her father, sharing some bread and wondering whether the day would be wet tomorrow. How did she get here? She tried to steady her breathing in through her nose and out through her mouth, but still the panic rose up in her. She tasted acid in her throat. She might actually be sick. Sandra's voice floated across once again. Be careful what you give the unicorn. He can't take anything without your permission. Do you understand? He really was sending her off on her own. No, I won't go. You can't just leave me here, she cried. But there was no reply. Just the sound of Sandra's pipe. The hateful, traitorous pipe that had brought her here. Enough, she cried. I never want to hear that sound again. Still, she couldn't help but listen. The tune was high and sweet. It made her think of birds. There were birds not far below her. She had climbed higher than the birds. Linnell took a deep breath. She could just stand here and shout, but there was nobody to rescue her. Sandra had abandoned her. She must go on. Steps. She must find the steps. She gazed around and found the steps easily. They were carved into rock and looked narrow and steep, but sturdy enough. The pipe continued to play, and she put her foot onto the first step. There was no rail, but the rock jutted out a little at waist level, providing something for her to grip onto. She clung on, concentrating hard in her effort to not fall. She stepped up on the next step, and then the next, slowly, steadily, as the pipe music played on. And then that's the end of chapter 2. That's fine. As long as it's not copyrighted, it's fine. Can I have a ciggy, please? Where did I put the lighter? There it is. So that was the end of chapter 2. Now, we did a whole chapter last night, and we only did one chapter. But that seemed like a pretty small chapter to me. I started at 10 to. I started at 10 to 10, yeah. What time is it now? Yeah, it's only a bit. Well, what time is it? Yeah. Yeah, no, we did. Started earlier today, then we started the stream at about 35 past. I started reading at about 10 to. Yeah, I can carry on. Like, I just need a bit of a time out from the book.
Okay.
Not entirely sure what to chat to you guys about, like, but. Oh, yeah. I don't know if you guys have seen, but we've got daily updates now. Now, if you have suggestions for the daily updates, I don't know, things to dress Pirate Bobble Pin or Fruity Pebbles in, or any suggestions for the fun facts section, that'd be great. That'd be really great. But we'll be trying to keep on top of those and doing daily updates. Any stream suggestions that you've got as well, that'd be really grateful. You know, at the minute, all we've really got the idea of is this Dino Corner storytime thing, because gaming's not really an option until I can figure out how to fucking work the Xbox. And I'm a dumbass and I can't figure it out, so. I'm not really ever gonna do a day in a life stream because, to be honest, a day in my life ain't that exciting for the most part. Just gotta get back to work a bit more. Yeah, taking a break off stream tomorrow. I've posted my stream schedule for the story time, and it was Tuesdays, Thursdays. Hang on. I think it was Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays. Let's have a look. I can't. I need to update it on Twitch as well, to be honest. I've got it in my thingy, but I can't remember. We've got alarm set, so don't worry. Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, yeah. 10 p.m. BST. And if you've got any suggestions for anything like that as well, for any updates to the server or anything like that, I will be sorting out my about me page shortly, because thankfully I have an absolutely amazing friend, Nixie Witchy, who is going to help me sort that out, and hopefully help me sort out my bot commands in my chat so I can finally shout people out and stuff like that. Because a lot of you guys need shouting out for all the support you've given me when you've come back. You know what, you've been stars. The amount of people that have come back into me streams, yeah, I can help with this, I can help with that, I can help with this, I can, just so they can turn around and help me get back to the stage that I was. Yeah, and I can't do anything for them at the minute because I've got nothing set up until they help me. Which, they've all been absolutely amazing and basically got it all set up and just been waiting for me to get my ass in gear. And I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful for the time that you guys have given me to turn around, take off and deal with my own mental health and get my own stability and everything sorted, so I'm able to stream for you guys and do it properly without getting mental burnout. I know a lot of follower communities, especially small ones, don't do that. If you end up losing your channel, you know what I mean? And okay, I'm only at like 20 followers now, but that's still 20 followers within a matter of 2 days of streaming, and I've still got people still finding me from my old account now, which is great. And the fact that you've all come in and instantly said, I can help with this, and I can help with that, and I can help with this, and you've been absolutely amazing. Like Derpy with the artwork, and Annie with just being Annie and helping me with the views and just artwork and just her odd little bits all the time. Nyx with turning around sorting out my about me page and everything like that, and Cyborg turning around saying that he'll help as well in whichever way he can, and just all of you have been so amazing. They're the main ones that I reckon would definitely need a shout out at this moment in time. The utter support from you guys has, you know what, it's very emotional, because you know what, all throughout that whole 6-month period when I was streaming, I was getting big, and you were all there for me and being great and supportive and everything like that. The fact that after all of that shit that's gone on, and all the shit that went on a couple of months ago, the fact that you're all still here and still supporting me, and as soon as I'm back on, you're instantly bam bam with the questions, making sure I'm okay. I've had people messaging me, people that I don't even talk to, that just pop into my streams every now and then, just randomly messaging me, checking up on me to see if I'm okay, everything like that. And the support has just been so unbelievably incredible from all of you, and I am so grateful about that. You are such a good fucking community, you really are. And yes, Jesus, I'm crying. Honestly. It It's amazing. You guys, all of you, are all fucking superstars. You're my heroes. You really are. And yeah, I couldn't ask for a better community. I really couldn't. And we may only be small, but it's a fucking great one. And the fact that you just completely accepting as well, whether or not I show up fucking kind of looking like a bit of a douchebag, to be honest. Fucking makeup looks fucking, yeah, not good. I am actually trying to grow a beard though. It might look like less of a douchebag with an actual beard rather than this. Or whether I show up tits half out. You know. So yeah. Skits, do us a favour. This song is...
All of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with this one.
I don't like that one. Oh, sorry about that one, guys. That one is not a nice song. Oh, ha. That is giving me a sensory no. You're on my account, that's why you need to go on yours. What the... I am sorry about this, guys. This is, again, the fucking realism. Realism of stream. Fucking sensory overloads on stream. Fucking sensory overloads on fucking stream, man. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry about that. Not editing that out for YouTube, because you know what, the realism is great. having the realism, I think I want the realism to be a part of my community, you know what I mean? I'll actively talk about the fact that I've got mental health issues, and I do a lot on my TikTok, to be honest, because Twitch doesn't like it. Twitch is like a no-no for mental health issues. Doesn't like you talking about trauma or anything. But I'm quite open about it on TikTok, you know what I mean? I show the realism. I do videos when I'm having my mental breakdowns and showing how severe my mental health issues can get. And you know what? All of you, again, just supportive throughout all of it, and you're amazing. Get a couple of hate comments here and there, but just tend to laugh them off most of the time. Because, you know what, there's more nice ones than there is negative ones. And there's more nice people in the world than there are negative. And I do genuinely believe that. I know it can be hard to see sometimes. Really hard to see sometimes. But through meeting all of you and through doing the charity work that I've done, I've come to realise that, you know what, it is only a small percentage of the population that aren't actually nice people. It's just, unfortunately, they tend to be everywhere at the same time. Honestly, I've probably met more nice people online than I have in my real life. Like people that I've actually become friends with, wise. But some of my closest friends are online friends. And that's boss. It's just a shame that you can't see them, you know what I mean? Right, shall we get back into this book then? Chapter 3, Part 1. The Castle in the Clouds. Well, now didn't... oh, sorry, pardon me. I'm very gassy at the minute because of the gastroenteritis. And I was a bit of a dum-dum yesterday and forgot to take my antibiotics all day. So it's kind of come back and hit me hard today, which is why I was going to do a live this morning. Noah said I was going to do a live this morning, but I woke up feeling like death and kind of still feel quite bleg now, which is why I'm only doing this live, because this is a pretty chill out, calm live, you know what I mean? I will, however, do the Get Ready With Me stream at some point where you can see the whole transformation from either whether we're more mask presenting like this when we get a binder, or and some decent masculine presenting clothes rather than a pair of female cargo shorts and Skits' clothes over there. Although these are very comfortable, very safe. Or when we get all dressed up and more feminine with the fancy wigs and the outfits and stuff. We're also looking into getting some more masculine wigs as well. I was going to wear that red one, but it didn't work with the cap. Kept knocking the cap off, and I love my caps. So, yeah. We will be doing a Get Ready With Me stream when we feel a bit better. And once we start feeling a bit better and get the Xbox working the way we want it to, we're going to set up a stream schedule for our game streams as well. So let's get to it. Linnell didn't count the steps, but there must have been hundreds snaking up into the sky. She continued steadily in time to the sound of the pipe, which grew fainter and fainter, the colour of the steps changing from a dark grey to a pure white as she climbed. She didn't think about the increasingly tired muscles in her legs or her breathing. She couldn't go back, only forward. After a time, the pipe playing stopped. Linnell didn't know if she had climbed too far for the sound to reach her, or if Sander had given up on her and gone home. What would she do if Sander was no longer there when she came out? The thought of being stuck up here in the clouds forever was more than she could bear. So she pressed on. From up here, the clouds looked like padded cushions on which she could jump, but every hair on the end of her body stood up. This was an illusion, and it was broken by the gaps in the clouds showing the glimpses of the green and grey mountain landscape below. The change as she climbed higher and higher, she stopped seeing any mountain at all. Through the gaps, only a layer of cloud, only the last layer of clouds, layers and layers of clouds. It was cool too. She shivered in her lightweight frock. The steps took a sharp turn to the right, and Linnell finally broke through. The change came suddenly, like rising from a lake after swimming underwater. Her head poked through into a brand new world. The light was no longer dim. It was so bright that Linnell closed her eyes and stopped climbing. She gradually opened them, still squinting, and tried to take in the scene before her. The castle. She had reached the castle. She had never seen a castle before, and she was open-mouthed at the sight before her, towering into the sky. It must have been at least 4 stories high, each floor smaller than the last. At the very top was a pointed turret, skipping upward, reaching higher than the giant mountains below. Behind it there were no trees or buildings to obstruct her view, and the bright yellow-white sky was vast, bigger than she'd ever seen it before. The blue-grey clouds that she had broken through still swirling around her legs and up to her waist. She climbed the final steps, slower than all the rest. Then the white rocky ground flattened out and she approached the castle as if in a dream. A sob rose up in her chest. It may have been relief that she was finally here. The castle actually existed. It did seem like the kind of place where wishes would be granted. She released the sob, making a glumping sound, which sounded strange up here in the silence. As Linnell walked right up to the wide castle steps, she couldn't see her feet moving. A curious sensation from the steps. She was unable to see the top of the castle, just a smooth white wall stretching up. There was no moat, no drawbridge, no guards even. This was not a building that was made for defense. But then why would it be when nobody knew it was existed? How had any human being ever been here before? Sander, of course, but from what he said earlier, maybe nobody else perhaps. Perhaps she was the very first female to set foot on this Mountaina. A proper adventurer, not a fool after all. Why did Sander stay away? He told her that he was unable to work. He told her that he was unable to work the basket pulley on his own, but that couldn't be true. He had come here before on his own, hadn't he? She would have thought that this gleaming white castle would be impossible for someone with his thirst for adventure to resist, yet he seemed happy to wait at a distance. There was not a sound, no birds, no voice, no wind. The clouds and the whiteness seemed to soften everything. She approached the gigantic arched doors that were over twice her height and made of coloured glass in the subtle hues of pink and yellow and blue. Into space with a diamond captain leading. It was bright and beautiful, as though a rainbow had been captured there. To her right was a long bell made from a knotted rope. There were 3 wide steps leading up to the door. She walked up to them, took a deep breath, and pulled on the rope. The clanging of the bell echoed deep within the castle, and she waited. Chapter 3, Part 2. Ice and Marble. Honestly, I do think this book is absolutely beautiful. The way it describes the nature around it and everything like that, and the way it goes into detail and everything like that about the surroundings. I feel like I can really get into the book and be there in the moment. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know if you're getting the same sensation about being able to be in the book and seeing the castle and everything. It's beautiful, isn't it? That might just be an autism thing. I don't know. That could be. Apparently, autistic people are very good at that. Um, but yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. Ice and Marble. Who would hear the bell? Would the unicorn come to greet her at the doorway, or did he have staff to perform such tasks? Linnell wished that she had asked more questions, despite Sanders complaining, so that she knew what to expect. The tall doors swung inwards, but nobody was behind them. There was no one to greet her, and no one to turn her away. Linnell stepped over the threshold of the castle in the clouds. The entrance hall was vast, white and luminous, and Linnell had to shield her eyes from the brightness. The floor was laid with marble tiles in a circular pattern, in different shades of white and cream. Light flooded in from the arched windows high above Linnell. They had the same leadwork pattern as the doors, and scattered colourful little diamonds of sunlight throughout the hall. A corridor stretched straight ahead into the depths of the castle. It grew dark, and she could only see a few yards of marble floor. Two symmetrical marble staircases on either side of the corridor led up to a mezzanine level, at the centre of which were some more arched double doors. These doors instantly drew Linnell's eye because they were black, and all the white made them appear blacker, like a tunnel. She somehow knew that that's what she thought would be behind the doors. So once again Linnell began to climb. This time her legs moved automatically, as if she was being pulled towards a stronger force. She gazed around at the emptiness. Perhaps the castle had been abandoned. When she finally reached the two heavy double doors, she could examine them more closely. They were made from a black, shining stone, quartz perhaps, and then studded all over with tiny, sparkling gemstones. Linnell wondered if she had just seen her first diamonds. She felt a thrill through her. That was why she was here. What was it Sanders said? Diamonds around your neck? A dress decorated in exquisite pearls? There was no bell pull at this door, no knocker or handle. Linnell laid both her palms flat against the right-hand door, which felt cold and smooth. She pushed experimentally to see if they would shift, and to her surprise, they swung open as if they weighed nothing. Linnell stepped through into the room, and the door swung shut behind her. Like the rest of the castle, there was nobody here, and the silence was almost too much for her to bear. Still, there was no doubt that she had come to the right place. The sight before her was so spectacular that she didn't even have a chance to gather her thoughts. She just gazed around her. She had reached the room once again. Everything was white, but here everything was icy and glittered with a blue tinge. She shivered and warmed herself with her arms. There didn't appear to be any windows, but candles flickered in arched alcoves high up in pillars by the walls. Perfumed smoke, perhaps, from the candles wafted the air. It smelled of warm fires and gingerbread, and quite odd with the frosty air. Ice sculptures stared out at Linnell from around the room. mainly animals, eagles, deer, lions, wolves. Near the back wall was a great marble throne with steps leading up into the center of the room was a round pool, frozen solid. From there to the throne was a walkway with fountains flowing into a long rectangular pool of water on either side. Pretty pinks and blues sparkled in the water. More candles lit the way, and two flaming torches in iron sconce, baby.
Scones. Scones.
Is that scones? I'm sure scones are a type of food.
Mm.
Yeah, this isn't about scones because there's a fire in there. Well done.
Okay, that happens.
Sconces.
Lovely.
Skonkers? Schoonces?
Scones out play.
Blazed on either side of the throne. I'm guessing that's kind of like a fire pit. I'm thinking by the description of it.
Okay.
Sorry about that, guys.
Scones?
It can't be scones. Scones is a food.
No scones. Put me in. Oh, please.
Did not.
No told scones.
I didn't know they were called that. Anyway, I don't know. Lynelle walked towards the pool. As she did so, she saw that the ice was crystal clear, not white, as a frozen lake might be. She could see clouds in the mountain far below. She passed around it, walked along the walkway, and stood before the steps to the throne. She didn't dare climb them. On a plinth to the left of the throne was an astonishing sculpture of a unicorn, the size of a real-life pony looking down on Lynelle, the greatest unicorn, she supposed. It was white and almost translucent, without joints or lines, as though it had been carved from a single block of ice. It was incredibly realistic. Although it stood in a relaxed pose, the unicorn looked proud and somewhat stern. Its horns glinted gold, and the rest of its body was blue tinged white. Lynelle took in every detail. Its mane, which flowed in a sheet like girl's long hair, the muscly legs, rounded muzzle. She wanted badly to touch it, and although she knew she probably shouldn't, there was nobody there to see her. She tentatively reached her hand up and touched the sculpture lightly on its fetlock. It was warm. The sculpture was not made of ice, she realized with a gasp. Lynelle spread out her fingers and felt the softness. Sanders' words from earlier came back to her. The unicorn, like a diamond, but not hard like a diamond, strong sinewy, but still soft. Just as she realized this was not in fact a sculpture at all, the unicorn reared up onto its back legs, its hooves close to Lynelle's face, and neighed as it leaped from the plinth. I need a drink. Okay, it's now 11 o'clock. We've been streaming for about an hour and 20 minutes. And I think that's a decent amount of time for a book reading. Normally book readings only go on for half an hour anyway. So, yeah, you got 1.5 chapters there. Gotten that much through the book in 2 sittings, which is really good. So that is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for popping by. I hope you had a good stream. I certainly did. Again, thank you for all the support. And I shall see you on Tuesday. Bye.